Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this virtual public information meeting for the Frontier Drive extension. My name is Nicholas Roper, and I am the Northern Virginia District's Project Development Engineer with the Virginia Department of Transportation. We're glad that you could join us for this meeting tonight, and we look forward to receiving your input and feedback. Your participation will make our project better. Before we move on, I want to note that we will be recording this meeting for future reference. Now, I would like to take a moment to recognize Supervisor Rodney Lusk, who is joining us this evening. Supervisor Lusk, would you like to make any opening remarks? We will unmute you, and you will also need to unmute yourself.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Perfect. I apologize. This format's a little different, so thank you very much. Delighted to be here and excited about the opportunity to talk about this very important project here in Lee District, and specifically why this project is important is really the growth that we're seeing in the Springfield area, particularly in the area immediately adjacent to the Metro Center. And the TSA headquarters location is just proximate to this improvement. And we know that we have a number of other users coming into the Metro Park development, which is across the road from where the TSA headquarters is located and over where the HealthFlex project is currently located. And we are excited about the opportunity to see Nova Hospital put forth plans that will result possibly in the development of an additional 750,000 square feet. And we know that, this is going to require additional transportation improvements to allow for connectivity through both the metro area and through Central Springfield. So just excited about the opportunity to talk more about this particular project and to hear concerns and questions from those here at the community. So thank you for the opportunity to be a participant and also to speak here for just a couple of minutes.
Thank you, Supervisor Lusk. I also want to recognize Mr. Tom Bashadny, the Director of Fairfax County's Department of Transportation, who has also joined us this evening. I will now turn it over to Andrew Beecher, the Preliminary Engineering Manager from VDOT for Fairfax County.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Nick, and good evening, everyone. Tonight we are holding this meeting virtually, given restrictions due to COVID-19. Despite not being able to meet in person, it is our intent to convey using this virtual platform, along with information from the project website, the same information we otherwise would, including key project information, the process for submitting comments, and key points of contact. Next slide, please. Okay, so tonight is going to be broken into two parts. First, we will have the presentation, and then we'll take your questions and answers. We'll be taking both written and verbal questions at that time. And in your control panel, you should have a questions pane. This will allow you to submit your written question or comment. If you would like to ask a verbal question, you can select the raise your hand button. The moderator will call on you when it's your turn to ask your question. If you are asking a verbal question, we'll need you to unmute yourself, and we will unmute you as well so that the panelists and attendees will be able to hear you. Next slide, please. So here's our agenda for this evening. We're going to begin with an introduction of the project team. That's going to be followed with background information on the project. We'll discuss the project location and provide an update since the last public information meeting. We'll go over the design features, discuss the preliminary noise study and preliminary cost estimates, and conclude the presentation by going over the projected project schedule. And finally, of course, we will take questions or comments from our audience this evening. Next slide, please. So here's our project team. The team includes myself, VDOT's Preliminary Engineering Manager for Fairfax and Arlington counties. Zamir Mirza is VDOT's Project Manager. We also have Gibran Abifadel, who is Fairfax County DOT's Project Manager. and Robert Morris, VDOT's consultant project manager with WSP. Next slide, please. So in terms of background, the genesis of this project, as Supervisor Lusk alluded to, is the issue of high existing and future traffic demands in the Springfield area. In order to address these ongoing and anticipated concerns, this project looks to improve access and connectivity as well as enhance capacity within the project area. One of the key elements of this project is the extension of Frontier Drive from its current terminus at the Franconia-Springfield Metro station to the north to Loisdale Road to the south. The extension is included in Fairfax County's comprehensive plan, and it is intended to support mixed-use employment, residential, and retail uses in a transit-oriented development environment. We did have an initial public information meeting back in December of 2017. And since then, there have been some changes to the design based on input from Fairfax County as well as WMATA, and we'll be discussing those changes in a moment. Next slide, please. And this next slide shows the project location and area in its entirety. This includes the extension to the south to Loisdale Road, the introduction of braided ramps to the north at the interchange with the Franconia-Springfield Parkway, and the circulation area around the metro station. And these proposed improvements are intended to enhance traffic operations and safety by providing increased capacity and greater connectivity, provide improved accessibility to the Franconia-Springfield Metro station and businesses located along Springfield Center Drive, and also improve pedestrian and bicycle facilities throughout the corridor, as well as reduce congestion levels on regional roadways. And next, to talk about the specifics of the project, Robert Morris, our consultant project manager, is going to walk you through design. Robert?
Thanks, Andy. Next slide, please. As you've heard, there have been some changes that have occurred since our last public information meeting was held in December of 2017. There's been a great deal of coordination between VDOT, Fairfax County, WMATA, and adjacent property owners. Let's briefly review the design features for this project, and I'll then highlight those areas where things have changed or been updated. In general, the project can be summarized by looking at three main areas of improvements. These are the extension of Frontier Drive from Franconia-Springfield Parkway interchange and the metro station across Long Branch up to Loisdale Road. Frontier Drive will replace Springfield Center Drive for the portion of the project that we call the South Project area. We will be modifying the Franconia-Springfield Parkway interchange into a braided ramp configuration to provide operational and safety improvements, as well as access improvements at and around the metro station. Let's now focus on some specific areas of the project, and I'll highlight some of the changes since we last got together in 2017. Next slide, please. This slide shows the typical section that was presented previously. It included on-road bike lanes, a sidewalk, shared use path, and an overall width of 106 feet. Next slide. This slide shows the current typical section. The overall width has been reduced to 98 feet. The on-road bike lanes have been removed, and Frontier Drive will now include a 10-foot shared use path on the southern side and a 10-foot concrete urban shared use path on the north side. The on-road bike lanes were removed due to the complex interaction of vehicles and numerous traffic movements near the interchange and the metro station. And for the purposes of consistency, the south section will not include on-road bike lanes either. Next slide. This slide shows the North Project area, which includes the braided ramps, the metro station, and a portion of the Frontier Drive extension. The circles identify some of the more significant design features that have changed. These include the typical section changes I mentioned, the intersection configuration at the entrance to the metro station, the configuration of the bus layover lot, and the proposed roundabout on the east end of the station. Next slide. As a result of continued coordination with WMATA and the completion of a value engineering study on the project in 2018, revisions were made to the 2017 concept and are shown on this slide. As previously mentioned, the on-road bike lanes were removed due to the complex traffic movements in this area. The bus layover configuration has been revised to improve bus operations, both entering and exiting the lot. The intersection at the entrance to the metro station was modified to a jug handle configuration. This will allow vehicles and buses coming from Franconia-Springfield Parkway that want to enter the metro station to stay to the right, which improves operations along Frontier Drive and eliminates the majority of the weaving movements that were present in the 2017 design. And lastly, the roundabout planned on the east end in 2017 has been eliminated in favor of a signalized intersection. This change was a result of coordination with WMATA, considering the planned circulation at the station and future plans for facilities around this area. Next slide, please. This slide just provides a zoomed in view of the area around the metro station, which includes the updated bus layover lot configuration, the jug handle intersection configuration, elimination of the roundabout, as well as some changes in circulation around the station. Next slide. This slide shows the planned configuration of the braided ramps at the Franconia-Springfield Parkway interchange with Frontier Drive and the metro station. This was the concept shown in 2017. These proposed modifications will improve traffic operations and safety at the interchange and also include bike ped connections and improvements. The design for 2021 remains unchanged for this portion of the project. Next slide. This slide shows the South Project area, which includes the portion of Frontier Drive extension after it crosses Long Branch and then connects down to Loisdale Road. This runs generally along the alignment of Springfield Center Drive. The circles identify some of the more significant design features that have changed. These include the updated typical section, some stormwater management ponds, intersection revisions with Loisdale Road, and other access points along Frontier Drive. Next slide. For the updated 2021 design, the typical section revision reduced the footprint of Frontier Drive, in particular at the intersection with Loisdale Road. This reduced typical section made it possible to eliminate the impacts to the building on the corner of Frontier and Loisdale. Through the reduction of that typical section and a retrofit of the existing stormwater management ponds shown on the screen, the project was able to reduce the impact on adjacent parcels along Frontier Drive. You'll also see that access points along Frontier have been updated to provide access to the existing properties, as well as to adjust for the arrival of the future TSA headquarters. Next slide. This is a zoomed in look at the southern end of the project at Loisdale Road, which includes the closer look at the eliminated impact to the building at the intersection. And also you can see the modified access points along Frontier Drive. At this point, I'd like to turn things over to LJ to discuss the noise analysis study from the project.
Thanks, Robert, and good evening, everyone. My name is LJ Muchenje. I am the VDOT noise abatement specialist. So during the preliminary noise phase in 2018, a preliminary noise study was completed. The graphics that we see here shows the general areas that was evaluated in the 2018 study. In the 2018 study, two noise barriers were shown to be feasible and reasonable. The two barriers are located north of Franconia-Springfield Parkway. It is important to note that at this point, these barriers are preliminary in nature and are not final. As the project advances to the final design, a detailed noise study will be completed for the entire corridor. The analysis will be completed using the latest design information. So this concludes the portion, my portion of the presentation. Next up is the VDOT project manager, Mr. Zamir, to discuss the project's budget and schedule.
Thanks, LJ, and good evening, everyone. My name is Zamir Mirza, and I'm the project manager for this project for VDOT. As Robert has indicated, we have been working on the project for some time, and while we are still in preliminary design stages, I'm glad to report that we're close to finalizing the design features of the project. With the changes that have been described from 2017, we have updated the project cost estimate. And from this slide, you will see that the preliminary engineering cost is about $12.6 million. This is essentially the cost of engineering services provided to develop design plans and other services associated with advancing the design. The right-of-way and utility cost estimate is approximately $38.5 million. This is the cost associated with acquiring the necessary rights-of-way needed for the project, as well as projected costs of protecting or relocating utilities above and below ground that are impacted by the project. The estimated construction cost is approximately $129.1 million. All of these numbers are subject to change as the design is developed in further detail. With regards to the funding, the project is being financed with local and Northern Virginia Transportation Authority, NVTA, regional funds. Fairfax County will be seeking additional funds from various sources for the remaining project phases. Next slide, please. This shows the tentative project schedule. We are now at the second public information meeting, and the next step is to prepare the public hearing plans and then hold a public hearing. This is expected to occur later this year in the fall. Following that, we will seek endorsement from the county as well as design approval from the VDOT chief engineer, and we expect to have that by winter this year. After which, we'll begin work on the detailed design plans. Next phase of the project will be the right-of-way and utility relocation stage. This is when we acquire the necessary rights-of-way for the affected property owners along the corridor. This is also when we protect and, if necessary, relocate the utilities that are affected by the design. The process is usually quite lengthy and is expected to take several years. So for now, we expect to begin construction by the summer of 2025. But again, that is subject to change. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, the next step is to develop the public hearing plans by the summer and then hold a public hearing in the fall. But we will continue our coordination efforts with WMATA, Fairfax County, and the other affected project stakeholders. I should mention here that we may hold a joint public hearing with WMATA since they are required to hold a public involvement meeting themselves. And so once we have made a decision on that on a collaborative way, then we will inform the general public and update the project website, as well as the usual media outlets. So at this point, I'd like to turn it back over to Andy for the closing remarks.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Zamir. In addition to the Q&A period coming up, we do have several ways for you to let us know your thoughts on this study. You can send us an email at meetingcomments@vdot.virginia.gov. You can mail us your comments at VDOT's Northern Virginia District Office, 4975 Alliance Drive, Fairfax, Virginia, 22030, and send that to the attention of Zamir Mirza. Or you can use the comment form on the study website. And if you are on the website, please click on the public meeting link. On the meeting page, clicking on the orange box that says comments will take you down to the online comment form. If you scroll further down, there is some optional demographic information that helps us to understand how our outreach efforts are working. Study comments should be submitted by May 27th, 2021. And of course, public input always helps make our efforts better. So we do encourage you to get involved and provide your feedback. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned at the outset, we will be taking both written and verbal questions this evening. In your control panel, you should have a questions pane that will allow you to submit written questions. If you would like to ask a verbal question, you can select the raise your hand button. The moderator will call on you when it's your turn to ask your question. And if you are asking a verbal question, we will need to unmute you, and then we'll ask you to unmute yourself so panelists and attendees will be able to hear you. And then just a reminder, once you do ask your verbal question, please remember to lower that virtual hand so that we know your question's been addressed. Okay, so at this time, I'm going to turn the floor over to our moderator, Genevieve, and she's going to lead us through the Q&A period.
Thanks, Andy. So we will start out with a question that we actually received via email prior to the meeting, and then we will take all of the questions in the order that we received them. Again, if you do have a question and you would like to speak it verbally, please raise your hand and we will also take those in the order that we receive them. For those who do ask verbal questions, please keep those succinct just to allow more questions to be asked. Once you've asked your question, we will go ahead and mute you to allow the panel to be able to speak and for everybody to be able to hear them. If you are calling in using a phone that is in listen-only mode, you will not be able to ask a verbal question tonight, but please email us or submit via the website or regular mail as well so that we can get your questions answered. All right, so Zamir, our first question is from Bruce Wright, and this was received via email. Regarding the extension, the current Fairfax County Bicycle Master Plan, part of the county's comprehensive plan, indicates bike lanes and a shared use path are planned for Springfield Center Drive. The bike lanes should be included in this project. I question the need for a $140 million project when Springfield Center Drive currently exists and extends almost to Frontier Drive. A very short extension of Frontier Drive would connect to Springfield Center Drive, which is currently relatively wide and underutilized.
Thanks, Genevieve, for that question. I want to thank the gentleman that posed this question. I'm going to let the county folk respond to the question of dropping of the on-road bike lanes. But I want to address his other question, comments about the project cost. Project costs are always an estimate of any project and are subject to change, and it's actually gone up quite considerably from the amount that we had mentioned back in 2017 at the public information meeting in 2017, and that's just a function of the cost of construction unit prices that have gone up considerably over time, and time is an important factor in cost estimating. And essentially, that's also associated with the design features that we have introduced. And so, the costs are relative to the, unit prices that we have that are monitored and updated as time progresses. The comment about extending Frontier Drive in short segments and to follow the existing Springfield Center Drive alignment is not really possible for design standards. We have to design the project to current design standards, and the alignment of the current Springfield Center Drive is not conducive to the widening that we're proposing with 4 lanes, 2 lanes in each direction, and to have smooth traffic flow for that movement. And so we have utilized, for the most part, the existing alignment, especially at the beginning at Loisdale Drive, but then we have to realign it in order to make the geometry work to align it for the bridge, which is a new bridge that we're proposing, and then that goes on to the connection of the intersection with the Springfield Metro station. So it's not really wide enough, and it may or may not be underutilized at this point. But the future traffic projections necessitate widening to 4 lanes of traffic. So with that, I will pass the mic over to our county representative, who is Gibran Abifadl. Gibran, are you there?
Yes, I am here. My name is Gibran Abifadl. I am the project manager from the Fairfax County Department of Transportation. Thank you for your question, Mr. Bruce. To answer your question about the bike lanes, the reason why we have removed them from this particular project is because the county is looking at new national guidelines from FHWA as well as NACTO to provide a safer and a more comfortable and a more equitable solution for this particular segment of road. So in the NACTO standard that we are following states that if the traffic, if the volume of vehicles that are going to be using the road that exceeds more than, I believe it's 6,000 or 7,000 vehicles per day, and speed limits of 35 miles per hour or more, that it is safer and better to not have bike lanes on the road and to provide a larger shared use path. In terms of the county's comprehensive plan, the old comprehensive plan, or the current one that we're working on, that we have right now, currently does say that we have to put bike lanes in. However, that the comprehensive master plan is going to be changing, or the comp plan will be changing in the future, and I'm not 100% sure the exact timing for that, but that is something that we are currently working on as a county to update and provide, and I think Michael can provide some information on that.
Thanks, Gibran. My name is Michael Guarino. I am with the Capital Project Section for the Fairfax County Department of Transportation. So following up on what Gibran was saying, we are in the process of updating our active transportation plan, which covers bicycle and pedestrian, as well as other micromobility like scooters. So we're in the process of updating that plan. It's going to be probably a couple-year process before we update the comprehensive plan, and that will be an update to the bicycle master plan as well. But as Gibran noted, the bike lanes aren't a preferred facility for the type of roadway that Frontier Drive will be. So we've removed them to have the shared use pass on each side of the roadway. And one thing to note about the bicycle master plan, that speaks to the current conditions. So while maybe on Center Drive, the bike lanes might have been appropriate, but with the improvements we're doing, they're no longer the preferred facility. Thanks.
All right, thank you all. Our next comment here is from Linda, and it says Springfield Forest is particularly concerned about noise and security when the project begins. If the current brick wall is brought down west side of our community between us and Springfield Commons, pedestrian traffic would easily have access to our community. There's already significant crime in the Springfield Mall/Town Center area. We need assurance that a hard wall will be in place during any construction.
Yes, good evening again. My name is LJ. Yeah, so like I said earlier, the preliminary noise study was completed during the preliminary design phase. As we go into the final design phase, a detailed noise study will be done. So when it comes to existing noise walls, what the noise regulations say is that if there's an existing wall in place right now, if the wall has to be if the wall is impacted by the project, that wall will be replaced in kind. So there is no situation where you have a wall today and then in the future when the project comes, you won't have a wall. So if you have a wall now, you would have a wall that is at least the same parameters as the existing wall.
Thank you, Eljoy. All right, so our next question here is, how are you going to dump 4 lanes into 2 lanes on Loisdale?
Robert, do you want to take that?
Sure.
I think
If we could pull up the slide that shows the zoomed in view at where Frontier Drive extension meets Loisdale. That might help with the discussion, but yeah, as you can see, when we get up close to the intersection, you know, currently Loisdale is 2 lanes. I don't think there's any current plans to widen Loisdale at this point. The traffic has been analyzed as part of this project. I know there's been a lot of other traffic studies that have happened in the area from different things that have gone on through here, but the traffic light there will help to meter traffic through this area. If there's specific questions related to where backups might occur or perhaps, you know, things along that nature, I would just recommend an additional question be asked.
Thanks, Robert. All right, our next question, where will I find the recording subsequent to the meeting?
Genevieve, I think you can answer that one.
Sure. So the recording will be posted on the project webpage on the VDOT site. Our next one here looks like a comment from Philip. And it says, this Friends of Aquitaine Creek, this is yet another trees to asphalt conversion, sacrificing carbon sink forest and streams in favor of heat sink pavement. This is not the way to a carbon neutral future.
I would invite our environmental group to comment on this if they have any comments, but we do go through a very stringent environmental control policy. Anissa, do you want to just speak to that real quick? Sure. And just tell her what the process is?
So as part of our NEPA process, we are currently conducting field studies in this area covering the natural resources that are there. And our natural resource technical report is underway right now. As soon as our NEPA document is completed, which we anticipate in the next 6 to 8 months, we'll make sure all of the documents, including that report, is on our website for the public to review. But at this time, we're still underway. We had some revisions to some of the footprint, and we're currently looking at ways to minimize that currently.
Great, thank you. Our next question here is from Christopher. Where are you in terms of funding? What is the timeline?
I would offer that response to Michael or Gibran, because this is
this is Tom. I'll take that one.
Oh, sorry, Tom.
This is
Go ahead.
With Fairfax County DOT. So the next opportunity that we have that we're aware of right now is the NVTA process, Northern Virginia Transportation Authority, and they have provided the funding to date for this project. Their next call for projects will be late this calendar year, and their decision-making process will be mid 2022. So we will be submitting this project as part of that. In addition to that, there may be other opportunities that arise at the federal level as well. So we're monitoring those opportunities, but we're reasonably comfortable that NVTA will be the next opportunity for us to submit funding request.
All right, very good, thank you. The next question here is from Willie, and it says, how would Loisdale be able to handle 7,000 more cars a day?
So I'm not sure whether that figure is correct. I would refer to our traffic guys. Hari, do you have any insight on the traffic volumes on Loisdale, or actually as they affect this project?
Sure, Zamir. Good evening. My name is Hari Thakur. I'm with Walcott. We are providing traffic engineering support on this project. So on the Frontier Drive extension, the projected daily trips will be 5,300. So that is 24-hour trips per day. Most of the trips are coming from the northern side, which is from Franconia-Springfield Parkway. And a majority of these trips that are coming from north will be going to the GSA, TSA entrance at the TSA office buildings. So the very few trips out of that 5,300 will be coming from or going to Loisdale Drive. Additionally, we are providing a signal at Loisdale Drive and the Springfield Center Drive intersection, which is currently stop controlled, but we are providing a signal to make sure that all the approaches at the intersection level, they work fine operationally.
Yeah, I think the signal at Loisdale has recently been rebuilt, and if you're familiar with that area, you might have noticed that. But we are, once this project begins, we are upgrading that signal again to accommodate the design that we are proposing.
All right, our next question is from Rosemary. My question regards the noise receptor slide. My property is on Wyndham Avenue and appears to be inside the impact area noted impacted and benefited. What does that mean?
LJ?
All right, so this slide was actually taken from the preliminary noise study. Like I say, during the final design phase, we're going to come back again and actually do a detailed noise study. But just to answer the question that was posed here about the impacted and benefited receptor, so what we do in the noise study analysis is actually we place receptors at each outdoor use of a noise sensitive site. So a noise sensitive site could be a residential home, like in this case there are several residential homes. So once we do the noise study, and if the noise levels exceed the noise impact criteria, that site is considered impacted, then we are required to evaluate a wall. So once we do the evaluation and the wall is shown to provide at least 5 decibels of noise reduction to the impacted sites, we call that benefited. So what the dot means that is that in the preliminary noise study, when we did that study, that site in question was impacted, and we evaluated the barrier, and that site was benefited by the wall. So I hope that answers the question.
Thanks, LJ. All right, so our next question is from Jim. The traffic light at Loisdale is currently dysfunctional. Cars in the right turn lane are unnecessarily triggering a red light for traffic that is southbound on Loisdale, among other problems. Can that be fixed?
So this is a question just kind of outside of our project scope. but I'm not sure if the county has any insight on any improvements on Loisdale in the future, because I believe this is kind of a constant complaint with citizens living on Loisdale. Tom, do you have any planned proposals for Loisdale and the traffic conditions there?
There aren't any plans for the widening or improvements to Loisdale, but if the traffic signal isn't functioning correctly, then we would definitely want to talk with VDOT's traffic engineering folks and have them take a look at the functioning of the signal.
Right, and I did. Sorry, I am told that it was recently replaced or upgraded, but I would check with our traffic engineering folks and find out whether it continues to have any issues with queuing and any other issues as the questioner has indicated.
All right, thank you. The next question is from Philip. There is already a crossing of Long Branch immediately adjacent and built just a few years ago. Why build another? Why was one not coordinated with the other? The cumulative effects of the earlier project, this project, and the proposed cinder bed road bikeway in fragmenting and degrading Long Branch and wooded habitats is in contradiction to the environmental responsibilities of Fairfax County.
So I'm not familiar with the bridge that he's referring to, but it certainly wouldn't be sufficient to carry the 4 lanes of traffic that we are proposing for this project. And so, that's basically the rationale behind building a dedicated bridge for this project. I don't know whether that bridge that this gentleman is referring to is sufficient to carry 4 lanes of traffic, as well as shared use path and other facilities.
Hey, Zamir, this is Robert. I just thought I'd add to this response too. I think they're probably referring to the roadway that you see on the screen right now, just to the left of the label that says Frontier Drive. There's a culvert, I believe, or a large box that perhaps that road crosses. But I just wanted to add that the bridge that we're looking to build over Long Branch, excuse me, it's basically connecting the 2 high points on either side. So it will span the entire area down there, as well as there's going to be other open space under it. So it won't be quite, it's not going to be a restrictive type situation there, if that, that makes it less impactful on that area.
All right. Our next question here, I'm looking to see, okay, we have a comment from John. It says the traffic light on Loisdale is a new addition and has only made traffic worse. The proposed change only benefits cars heading south from Fairfax Parkway. That means you will be funneling Parkway traffic to Loisdale. That will only make traffic worse with Loisdale current road capacity. This will only lead to expanding of Loisdale and more costs.
So this is a similar question to the earlier question about the traffic on Loisdale, as well as the performance of that signal. As I mentioned earlier, we will coordinate with our traffic engineering department to find out what, if any, issues there are and confirm that, and we can relay that information back to the citizens.
Thanks, Samir. And it looks like there were a couple of comments along the same lines that were following up. Jim following up on his comment before about the traffic light at Loisdale, and he said it was recently installed, not replaced, and it's not working. But as you just mentioned,
Right.
Reaching out to the engineering section.
Correct.
So perfect. Okay. The next question we have is from Philip. Transit-oriented development. The irony of building yet more high-volume roadway through a natural area that would enhance a transit-oriented area is inescapable.
I'm not sure how to respond to that. It's a philosophical argument, which I'm not really capable of responding to. The argument between roads and natural area. All I can speak to is the need to accomplish the project objectives is to move traffic easier and to relieve congestion on other networks by the opening or connecting these two locations together to make the ease of traffic. Now again, that's a philosophical argument of whether we build any roads through any unspoilt areas that I really can't speak to unless anyone else has a response for that.
All right. It looks like we have a verbal comment from Enrique Gonzalez. Enrique, I see that you also added a comment to the, or a question to the question box that says, how will this affect bicycle traffic to the bicycle flyover I-95? And I'll go ahead and unmute you just to make sure that that was the question, since you did also have your hand unraised.
I was looking for the chat box.
Oh, okay, not a problem. Just wanted to make sure you didn't have another one. All right, so Zamir, the question is, how will this affect bicycle traffic to the bicycle flyover I-95?
The honest answer is I don't know. However, maybe the county bike folk or the bike county has some insight on traffic on the bicycle movements around the area.
So this is Tom. I don't think that it affects the flyover at all, but what it does do is it allows people on bicycles to have better access to the metro station. So they'll be able to use the bicycle flyover from the west side to the east side, and then very quickly be able to come south to the new connection and then go over to the metro station. It should be a lot easier than what they have to do today.
Thanks, Tom.
All right. The next question is from Philip. Why can't we see anything about who or how many citizen participants are here, nor can we chat with others or view their questions? This is an unsatisfactory meeting format.
So Genevieve, you might want to let folks know that we are recording this meeting, and there will be a transcript of sorts that includes these questions and responses, so that people can see the questions and the answers that were provided. I think it's just the nature of this platform that doesn't allow invitees to see each other necessarily. I couldn't really speak to that, really.
That is correct, Zamir. So this is done in a webinar format so that we aren't limiting the number of attendees that can join, and also in order to keep the meeting moving and flowing. But again, as Zamir said, there will be a transcript of all of the questions and comments that was received during the meeting.
Yeah, and Genevieve and Zamir, if I could just add, currently we're showing about 62 folks in attendance, and that would of course include staff from VDOT and FCDOT. And then just in terms of the comments, we do appreciate those comments. We are continually trying to refine our processes for these virtual meetings, and we'll certainly look and see if there's ways we can accommodate some of those concerns going into the future.
Thank you, Andy. The next comment we have here is from Gerald. It says the consequence of routing some 3,000 plus vehicles along the Frontier Drive extension will simply transfer congestion onto Loisdale Road with or without a working traffic signal on Loisdale Road. Regarding the noise impact of the residents on Layton Drive.
So Harry, if you're still there, to speak to the traffic volumes on Frontier Drive as it relates to the Loisdale end of the project, and possibly even some ideas of the traffic coming from Loisdale to Frontier Drive. Do you have that insight?
Yeah, definitely. So, as I mentioned before, a majority of the trips are coming from Franconia-Springfield Parkway side. So from northern side, the station side. And those trips, before they reach to Loisdale, they will be accessing the TSA driveway that is located east of Loisdale. So although there are 5,000 trips on this extended road, but not all of the trips are going to or coming from Loisdale. Majority are coming from Franconia-Springfield side that won't reach to Loisdale. So the impact on Loisdale will be minimal. And as Samir alluded, we will look into the signal timing to fix the signal issues.
So just to be clear, we're talking about a 2-lane roadway currently, and we will have 4 lanes of traffic, which will have a capacity to accommodate the traffic projections that we are anticipating. And also the traffic projections are in the future years as well. So Harry, just remind me the design year traffic.
Yes. Yeah, these traffic numbers we are talking for design year, which is 2043, 22 years down the road. So, these numbers are quite far in future, which will gradually grow to that level from today.
And of course, those are projections as well. So, situations and circumstances could change to lower those numbers or make them higher, but that's not something that we can predict to any great degree at this point.
Harry, there's another question here for you that says, please ask Harry Thacker to define minimal as to the Loisdale impacts.
Yeah, I was going to say, Harry, you might want to elaborate on the residue of traffic that's going to continue on beyond the TSA destination along Frontier, if you have that information.
Yeah, sure. So we have about 500 vehicles in the morning coming from the station side. Out of that, 450 vehicles will be turning right onto the TSA driveway, and remaining 50 vehicles will continue towards Loisdale.
Even that traffic wouldn't necessarily go all the way to Loisdale, right? So it could be going to the Nova Medical Center. It could be going to the GSA facility, and there's other businesses down there, right?
That's correct. So overall at Loisdale, we are looking at 50 vehicles in the morning. Sorry, on Springfield Center Drive. The trips coming out of Springfield Center Drive going on to Loisdale, we are looking at 50 vehicles in 1 hour, which is a peak hour in the morning, and about 250 vehicles in the PM peak hour in the evening. We do have a separate left turn and right turn lane on Springfield Center Drive. So with the signal and this separate turn lanes, it should accommodate the projected amount of trips that we have analyzed.
All right, thank you, Harry. We have another one for you as well. This one is from Jim. And Jim, sorry, it looks like we skipped this question earlier, so I apologize for that. Reiterating this question that did not get answered, of the projected 6,000 to 7,000 estimate of cars per day on the extended road, how many of those cars are estimated to be going to Loisdale Road, and what proportion of that will be northbound?
Right, so I guess I just answered that question in response to previous, but I can repeat again. You know, in morning, 50 vehicles will come out of Springfield Center Drive and either make a left or right turn on Loisdale. In the evening, we will have about 250 vehicles that will be turning either left or right on Loisdale. The split is pretty even, it's about 50-50%. So 150 vehicles will turn left on Loisdale, 150 turn right on Loisdale in the PM peak hour. That is the worst hour. All other hours, the traffic will be lesser than that. We analyze in traffic point of view the peakest demand traffic, and that's 50 in the morning, 300 in the evening. Oh, sorry, 250 in the evening.
Thank you, Harry. All right, so the next question we have from Alexis. Are improvements planned for access to the path that starts at the southwest corner of Frontier Drive / Franconia-Springfield Parkway and is adjacent to the Metro Police property? Right now, there is no signage, no lighting, and the vegetation is always overgrown. The path's asphalt condition is very poor. It is not clear that a path is available there. It's a confusing and uncomfortable experience for people walking and biking.
If we could just go to that slide that shows the overflow parking lot, and Robert, maybe you can speak to what's going on there and how far away that Metro Police property is in relation to that, and show it on this plan. Maybe zoom in if you can.
Sure. Genevieve, did you say, just to make sure I got the path location correct, which part of the interchange? You said southwest part of the interchange?
Yes, it says the path that starts at the southwest corner of Frontier Drive / Franconia-Springfield Parkway and is adjacent to the Metro Police property.
Okay. If you look on this screen, you'll see it's kind of a magenta color. They identify the new sidewalk or shared use path connections that we're going to be making as part of this project. As part of the work related to the off-ramp coming from Franconia-Springfield Parkway down to Frontier, you can see on the screen right now that we are showing connections from that path that you're referring to. So at least along the length of that ramp, we're going to be calling for replacing that asphalt path that runs between the ramp and the Metro Police Station. And as you can also see on the screen, there's lots of other connections that are going to be tying in, both to get over to the Metro Station as well as to head up Frontier Drive, heading north, heading up towards Springfield Town Center. So a portion of it will be certainly improved, and there'll be a little bit of realignment of it. I don't know that it will extend quite as far as perhaps the question was asking, but certainly we're addressing it within the project limits.
All right, thank you. The next question is from Graham. Much of the extension follows the existing Springfield Center Drive alignment with a few exceptions, such as the area of the undeveloped parcel adjacent to the NVCC building. Will those sections of that existing right-of-way be closed?
So if we can just go to that slide that shows that location, maybe zoom in a little bit in that area, if you can, and that where it turns. So that property that is being referred to is that sort of wooded parcel right next to the Nova Medical School, and that is owned by Nova. And I think it was mentioned earlier that there are plans to develop that by the Nova Medical School. So, as you can see, we are providing access to the Nova Medical School as well as government offices that are adjacent to it. We are currently revisiting the access to this, and this is just a preliminary design showing the access point. There will be another access point further to the north that you can see. We are providing that access point as well. The road actually does impact this property that is planned to be demolished, and we've already met with the property owner, and we've come to an agreement over that building. Obviously, we haven't reached the settlement of the compensation that will be paid, but they're aware that their building will be affected by the project. So just beyond that, you'll see that we have provided access to both the Nova Medical School and the TSA headquarters through that access point. So all the circulation within the medical school will still be open. We're not changing that. The only thing we are doing is punching into the existing Springfield Center Drive road with our new alignment. So there will be access maintained at that point. Robert, do you want to say anything else?
No, I think that for the most part covers it. I mean, there's portions there of Springfield Center Drive that will, that are outside of where Frontier Drive extension is going to be. And, I think it probably depends a lot on how those parcels are developed, what ultimately happens with that, I would imagine.
All right, thank you both. Our next question is from Linda. Are we to understand that there will be no direct cut through, vehicle or pedestrian, into or out of Springfield Forest? And then in parentheses it says Malia Street, Elder Street, and/or Hackberry Street.
So I'm assuming this is referring to the area north of the proposed braided ramps, correct? It's sometimes difficult to
yes,
follow the
that's
location.
the area, Mirza.
Right. So whatever access points, Robert, I don't know if you know whether we're not cutting off any access points. To my knowledge, what we are doing is enhancing some of the connections with our design to the existing trails at that location. As we look in that right to the right of that slide, if you zoom in on there, that is where we are making a connection. I'm not aware of any other locations that we are impacting adversely.
Correct. Yeah, there is no vehicular access being made to Malia Street or that neighborhood up there from the braided ramps. There is, as you can see in the lower right corner of the screen. We are making a connection to the existing trail that exists down there and just sort of tying that in to the shared use path that'll run along the braided ramps, but that would be it.
All right.
And just to mention that, this is where, the wall will go in between the braided ramps and the properties at this location, if the wall is justified and warranted through the detailed noise study. Again, it's for everybody else's benefit as well.
Okay, thank you. Our next question is from Willie, and Willie asks, the Loisdale end of Springfield Center Drive is barely 3 lanes wide. Are you widening that?
So Springfield Center Drive at the Loisdale end will be widened to 4 lanes. And as was mentioned earlier, we are narrowing the section in order to, not impact, especially that big building on the slide that you see. And we have been in contact with the property owner of that building, or the tenants of that building, and this was the resolution. But for the purposes of the widening, there will be 4 lanes of traffic as opposed to the current 2 at that location.
Yeah, and I would just add that other sections of Frontier Drive have a median. An effort was made at the intersection here to eliminate that median. You can see that on the right of the screen, there is a turn lane for the next intersection. However, we have eliminated the median through here in an effort to narrow the section and minimize impacts to the greatest extent possible.
All right, thank you. Jim had a comment following up from earlier that says, thank you, a good reason to fix the light. And then it looks like our last question as of right now is from John. And it says, so you will be demolishing the Evangelist Church that is near the NVCC campus?
Not sure where exactly the church is. If it's in the building that we are demolishing, then yes. There are several businesses that occupy that building. If you just zoom over to that point on this slide, we see it. So if you just zoom in on that, where the road turns there, that's the building that we are, that's the only building that we are impacting along the alignment. And if the church is within that building, then yes, it will be affected. But as I mentioned, we have been in touch with the property owners and made them aware of the project impacts, and we've had some quite extensive meetings with them so that they could still maintain some of their property for future development.
All right, thank you, Zamir. I'm just doing a quick check of the questions box, and it looks like we have answered all of the questions there, and I don't see any hands raised at this time. So that will conclude the question and answer portion of our meeting. If you do
Genevieve,
yes.
Perhaps just to give one last opportunity, let's give folks maybe another minute or two if they want to enter in any last minute questions that they may have. And just as a reminder, if you do want to make a verbal question, you can also do that as well. Just raise your hand virtually in the control panel. So again, just want to give folks one last opportunity in case they have any burning questions before we wrap up. In the meantime, I did want to mention that as discussed, we will follow up on these couple of questions that came up this evening, particularly the operation of the existing Loisdale signal. And also, I think we can also look into the the trail that had been discussed by Alexis, and just look into the existing condition and the maintenance of that trail, understanding that any portion impacted by our project would not occur for a number of years. So I just wanted to let folks know that we will follow up on those couple of issues. And at this point, Genevieve, have you seen any additional questions come in?
It does not look like we have any in the questions box or any raised hands at this time.
Okay, very good. And then I also just wanted to pass along, it looks like we did confirm that a church is in the building that was discussed just a few moments ago. Okay. Well, at this time, since we do have a few minutes, I did want to take a moment to recognize, I believe we had Delegate Sickles join us, as well as Delegate Watts, and just wanted to offer them an opportunity, since they weren't able to at the beginning of our presentation, to make any comments if they would like. So perhaps if they are still on, Delegate Watts, if you would like to go first.
Yes, I am still on.
Yes, ma'am.
Observing it all, I do appreciate having this opportunity at this point in the design as you move forward to the fall public hearings to continue. I appreciate particularly you highlighting the look at the Loisdale light functioning, as well as the path question. I appreciate that action now as we look at a project that is probably at least 4 years away. Again, thank you very much for this information.
Okay, and thank you, Delegate Watts. We appreciate your comments. Moving on, is the senator still on?
It does not look like it, Andy.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Just wanted to make sure we gave that opportunity. And I take it we do not have any additional questions that have come in?
Nope, still no additional questions, and just scrolling through to see if there's any hands raised, and no hands raised either.
Very good. Well, with that, I think we're going to go ahead and close out our meeting this evening. But again, we do want to thank everyone for your participation and feedback. There were a lot of good comments and questions. I mentioned those couple of issues that we're going to follow up on, so we appreciate that. We do look forward to continuing to work with the community to help move this project forward. And certainly, again, please, if you have any additional questions after this, please submit them in the format that we have provided. And we look forward to hearing from you. So thank you again.